The Valtrax Empire had never lost a gladiatorial match. Their arenas were monuments to dominance, carved from obsidian and blood iron, where the galaxy's fiercest predators proved their worth. The crowd of thousands roared as the plasma gates hissed open, revealing the day's entertainment. A human. Arden stepped into the arena dust, her boots crunching on the bones of previous challengers. She was small by galactic standards, barely reaching the chest of most species, but her eyes held something the Valtrax had never quite understood. Not fear, not submission, something else entirely, a human. The announcer's voice boomed across the Colosseum. Captured from the frontier worlds, this soft-skinned creature dared to interfere with Imperial expansion. Today she faces the proving pit. The crowd's enthusiasm dimmed slightly. Humans were known throughout the galaxy now, but mostly as engineers, doctors, and diplomats. Throwing one into a combat arena seemed less like sport and more like execution. Still, the Valtrax had their traditions. Arden scanned her surroundings. The arena was circular, perhaps 200 meters across, with walls too smooth to climb. Above, the force field shimmered, containing the violence below. She had no weapons, no armor, just the worn jumpsuit she'd been wearing when the Valtrax raiding party had captured her medical vessel 3 weeks ago. The opposite gate opened. What emerged made even the bloodthirsty crowd gasp. Not the usual trained gladiators or captured warriors, but cubs. 12 Valtrax cubs, each the size of a full-grown earth lion with chitinous plates covering their developing bodies and claws that could shred steel. Their eyes, multiple sets per head, locked onto Arden with predatory focus. A twist, the announcer declared. The human faces the Imperial Nursery's rejects. Cubs deemed too aggressive, too dangerous even for Valtrax military service. They haven't eaten in 3 days. Begin. The cubs spread out immediately, displaying pack tactics that would have impressed any military strategist. They were young, perhaps equivalent to human teenagers, but they were still apex predators. Their low growls rumbled through the arena floor. Arden didn't run. She'd learned over the past weeks that running triggered the Valtrax chase instinct. Instead, she stood perfectly still and did something that made the entire crowd fall silent. She knelt. Then she opened her arms wide and began to sing. It was a lullaby, soft and gentle, in a language the universal translators couldn't quite process. The melody was ancient, passed down through human generations, crafted by evolution to soothe, to comfort, to calm. The lead cub, larger than the others, with a notch in his front carapace, hesitated. His name was Kor, though Arden didn't know this. He'd been marked for termination after his third handler died from his excessive aggression. His claws scraped the arena floor as instinct warred with something deeper. Arden kept singing, tears streaming down her face. Not from fear, but from rage at what had been done to these children, because that's what they were, she realized. Children starved and brutalized, trained to kill or be killed. Kor took a step forward, then another. The other cubs watched, confused, as their pack leader approached the human. They'd been taught that humans were weak, that all prey species were beneath them. But this human wasn't running, wasn't fighting, was offering something they'd never received in their short, violent lives. Compassion. Kor reached Arden and stopped, his massive head inches from her face. She could smell the carnivore musk, see the battle scars already marking his young body. Slowly, maintaining eye contact, she reached out and placed her hand on his armored snout. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry they did this to you." Something broke inside Kor. Some wall the trainers had built through pain and deprivation. He pressed his head into her palm and a sound emerged from his throat. Not a growl, but something closer to a whimper. The other cubs approached, cautiously at first, then with increasing confidence. They surrounded Arden, not as predators circling prey, but as lost children finding an unexpected guardian. The crowd erupted in confusion. The arena masters activated the pain collars every cub wore, sending electric shocks through their bodies. The cubs snarled in pain, but they didn't move away from Arden. Instead, they pressed closer. Kor made a decision. He positioned himself in front of Arden, between her and the largest of the arena's weapon turrets. The other cubs, understanding with the wordless communication of pack animals, formed a protective circle around the human, their armored backs facing outward. "What is this?" the announcer sputtered. "Cubs, attack the human!" "That is your purpose." More shocks coursed through the collars. The cubs' bodies trembled, but their formation held. Arden stood in the center, her hand still resting on Kor's back, feeling his muscles spasm from the electrical torture. "Enough," she said quietly, though her voice somehow carried through the arena. "You want violence? Then give me a real weapon and face me yourself, you cowards. But leave these children alone." The Valtrax arena master appeared at the royal viewing box, his many eyes wide with disbelief. In 3 centuries of games, nothing like this had occurred. The cubs had chosen the prey over the Empire. Arden looked up at him, her small human face defiant. "Your Empire throws children into death matches and calls it strength. But I've seen your weakness. It's not in the cubs, it's in you," the crowd began to murmur. Some in anger, but others, younger Valtrax mostly, with something that looked disturbingly like shame. Kor roared, a sound that shook the arena foundations. It wasn't a battle cry. It was a declaration. Behind him, 11 other cubs joined their voices to his. They were saying no. The arena master reached for the termination switch, which would detonate all 12 collars simultaneously. But his hand froze as he looked at the crowd. The murmuring had grown louder, and not all of it was in his favor. Arden remained in the center of her shield of cubs. This small human who had done the impossible, not through strength or cunning, but through the most human trait of all. She had seen monsters and chosen to find the children underneath. The Empire would never be quite the same.